12,000 years ago, the world changed in a way modern science is only beginning to grasp. A sudden global flood event, over 400 feet of sea level rise. Entire coastlines drowned, erasing what could have been humanity's earliest cities. And with new ocean floor mapping and high-resolution sediment data, we're uncovering evidence suggesting ancient civilizations may have perished beneath the rising waters at the end of the last ice age. High-tech sonar, satellite bathymetry, and ice core analysis have revealed a story that challenges everything we thought we knew about prehistoric humanity and the world that existed before written history. Before we dive in, comment below. Where in the world are you watching from? I want to know how far this evidence is reaching. Are you in the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand? Tell me in the comments right now. Before this catastrophic shift, mainstream archaeology says humanity lived in scattered hunter-gatherer tribes. Simple stone tools, no cities, no writing, no monumental architecture. But the end of the Pleistocene was a period of climatic stability, followed by a sudden, violent transformation. As ice sheets melted and seas rose, vast coastal plains, prime real estate for early settlement, vanished beneath the waves. If advanced human communities did exist then, we should expect their remains to lie offshore, not on today's land masses. Then around 12,000 years ago, the world changed. Massive glacial melt pulses, documented in ice cores and ocean sediment cores, reveal sudden spikes in sea level. Geological evidence shows meltwater pulse events adding 10 to 20 feet of sea level in centuries or even decades, an unimaginable rate compared to modern changes. Imagine New York, London, and Shanghai going underwater in a few generations. That was reality for ancient peoples living on the now submerged coasts. By around 9,600 BCE, global sea level had risen roughly 400 feet, swallowing an estimated 2 million square miles of prime coastal land. Areas the size of modern Europe disappeared. Beneath today's waves lie the continental shelves where humans once hunted, farmed, built, and, according to some researchers, civilized. If this evidence is new to you, hit the like button right now. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who question mainstream narratives. Seriously, pause and like this video. So what evidence do we actually have? Let's break it down. First, physical landscapes frozen in time beneath the sea. Off the coast of India near the Gulf of Khambhat, sonar mapping revealed geometric patterns stretching over 5 miles, including what appeared to be foundations, linear avenues, and deep channels. Carbon dating of artifacts brought up from the site returned ages around 9,500 years old, far older than the earliest known Indian civilizations. Mainstream archaeologists argue the artifacts may be riverborne and the patterns geological. But the scale, symmetry, and context suggest human modification. If verified, this would shift the timeline of Indian civilization back thousands of years. Second, submerged structures around the world. Off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a massive stepped structure rising from the seafloor, terraces, right angles, straight stair-like platforms. Some researchers say natural fracturing of sandstone created it. Others point to tool marks, staircase symmetry, and megalithic design. Its lowest reachable levels sit more than 80 feet underwater, meaning they would have been dry land roughly 10,000 years ago. Whether nature or human-modified, the fact that people were active around these structures at the end of the Ice Age is undeniable. Third, geological evidence of catastrophic melt events. Greenland ice cores show dramatic spikes in meltwater around 12,800 and again around 11,600 years ago. Sediment layers from North America to Europe contain microscopic glass spheres, platinum anomalies, and burned biomass, signals of intense heating events. Some scientists argue this could support impact-triggered melt or massive glacial outburst floods on an unimaginable scale. The mainstream points toward gradual warming and ice sheet collapse. But when you match the sudden sea level jumps, the scorch layers, and global myth cycles, the story becomes harder to dismiss. Pause and comment your answer. Did rising seas erase evidence of early civilizations? Or were humans purely primitive before agriculture? Comment 1 if you think ancient civilizations existed and were lost, or 2 if you believe humans only advanced after 10,000 BCE. I read every comment and I respond to the most interesting theories. We also have cultural memory, ancient traditions describing great floods and drowned lands. Plato wrote about Atlantis sinking around 9,600 BCE. Aboriginal stories in Australia describe coastlines flooding roughly 10,000 years ago. And modern sea level mapping matches those oral histories precisely. Ancient Mesopotamian texts, biblical narratives, Maya accounts, Greek myth cycles, they all describe a world destroyed by rising waters and renewed from survivors. That doesn't prove technology or lost cities, but it raises a question. Why do so many cultures from so many continents remember a world before a flood? Mainstream archaeology says these are coincidental legends or metaphors explaining natural river floods. That's valid. But when the dates, geology, and sediment records align with global myth timelines, we have a pattern worth studying instead of dismissing. And then we look at what emerges right after this period. Within 1,000 years of the flood events, advanced monumental cultures suddenly appear. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, with precision-carved pillars over 10 tons each, astronomical alignments, animal reliefs, and engineering complexity that shouldn't exist if humanity was only just discovering farming. The site dates back over 11,000 years. Who built it? How did they go from hunter-gatherers to megalithic engineers seemingly overnight? We're told it was a leap, a coincidence of intelligence and opportunity. But sudden leaps on this scale are rare in nature and history. Evolution, technological or biological, typically leaves gradients. Here, we see a cliff, and we see the same pattern across the globe. Mysterious megalithic ruins with advanced planning emerging right after the period when much of human settlement would have been submerged. Here's what mainstream archaeology struggles to explain. How, after hundreds of thousands of years of simple stone tools, humans suddenly started building megalithic temples, planning complex astronomy, and organizing labor forces capable of moving multi-ton stones, immediately after the biggest sea level rise in modern human history. We're not talking about a slow climb. We're talking an explosion of capability. What if this wasn't our first rise, but our second? Could people living 12,000 years ago have built settlements, tracked the stars, and engineered monumental structures? We know they tracked the sky. Göbekli Tepe contains sophisticated astronomical symbolism. We know they planned sites spanning hundreds of meters. We know they had organizational ability. And we know they had enough surplus to fund complex, multi-generation construction projects. The question is not, were they capable? The question is, where did they learn this? And here's where the water matters. The continental shelves, those wide, shallow zones off our coasts, were dry land for over 100,000 years. Fertile, temperate, filled with rivers and sheltered harbors. If civilization did arise early, that is exactly where it would have been. And those places are now underwater, buried under up to 400 feet of ocean. This isn't fringe speculation. Marine archaeologists have documented dozens of submerged prehistoric settlements. Doggerland in the North Sea, filled with traces of human life. The Black Sea's ancient shorelines. Flooded caves in the Bahamas containing human remains and extinct megafauna bones. Submerged quarry marks near Malta. And anomalous structures off the coast of Cuba sitting on what looks like old plains. Mainstream archaeologists argue these are natural formations or late hunter-gatherer camps swallowed slowly by post-Ice Age seas. Fair. But the density of anomalies in areas that would have been prime settlement zones during the last glacial maximum demands deeper research. If we had discovered even 10% of the structures we suspect might exist beneath the Mediterranean or the Indian Ocean, the conversation about human antiquity would already sound very different. Now zoom out. This isn't isolated. This is a pattern. Look to Southeast Asia. The Sunda Shelf, nearly the size of modern India, was once exposed land linking Indonesia to mainland Asia. Paleo rivers traced by ocean floor mapping show vast valleys and deltas, perfect for ancient cultures. That land vanished beneath rising seas around the same time global myths speak of lost kingdoms. In Japan, the Jomon people created pottery 16,000 years ago, far earlier than conventional timelines allow for primitive hunter-gatherers. Look to the Americas. Mysterious large stone spheres in Costa Rica, massive earthworks in the Amazon hidden by jungle only discovered recently via LIDAR. The Amazon was once thought untouched wilderness. Now we know it housed complex societies before being reclaimed by nature. LIDAR has also revealed pyramids in Guatemala hidden beneath jungles so dense we never knew they existed, until technology caught up. So what else lies hidden? Underwater? Let's pull back to the bigger implication. If coastlines were once home to humanity's first organized societies, and they drowned, then our archaeological record is biased by what is still accessible. We're piecing together a puzzle using only the pieces that remained on dry land. That means our timeline isn't just incomplete, it is systematically incomplete. And that changes everything. So where does this lead us? The unanswered questions are powerful. Were there seafaring cultures before recorded history? Did they map coastlines long before Sumer and Egypt rose? Did a cataclysm wipe out not just land, but memory, forcing survivors inland, carrying only knowledge fragments that reignited civilization later? What if ancient flood myths aren't stories about a river overflowing, but the trauma memory of watching the ocean swallow your world? We don't know yet, but here's what we do know. Sea level rose roughly 400 feet. It flooded millions of square miles of land. It happened during a period when humans existed, hunted, built, and migrated. And right after that flood, complex culture and architecture emerged suddenly across the globe. That's not pseudoscience. That's the geological record, archaeological observation, and technology revealing what our textbooks never covered. As we continue mapping the ocean floor, as autonomous submersibles and high-resolution sonar push deeper, as ice core chronologies sharpen and sediment cores reveal new layers of catastrophe, we are likely to face a narrative shift. One where humanity's story doesn't start 6,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, but stretches far deeper, through a forgotten age drowned at the end of the Ice Age. And that brings us to a simple truth. Real science isn't afraid of new evidence. It welcomes it. The only question now is what we'll discover next. If you found this compelling, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. This channel is dedicated to exploring our deep human past with evidence, curiosity, and rigorous questioning. Not sensational claims, not conspiracy, but science that isn't afraid to follow data wherever it leads. Your support helps share this perspective with more people who want thoughtful, evidence-based exploration of our origins. Next video, we're investigating the mystery of megalithic engineering and the possibility that knowledge of stone cutting and precision architecture came from a much older source than we think. Did ancient survivors carry geometry, astronomy, and tool traditions across continents after the flood? And could that explain why pyramids, cyclopean walls, and aligned monuments appear worldwide? Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss it. The water may have buried the past, but it didn't erase the truth. The real history of our species is still out there, and we're just beginning to uncover it.